Global Broadcasting Networks presents Military Mom Talk Radio. We know behind every strong soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is the family supporting them. With over 200 episodes in 17 countries, over 5 seasons, with 3 million monthly listeners, we are Radio Strong. We're here to share resources and experts on topics important to you, the military family. Join us. We've got another great episode starting right now. Here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. Hello, everyone. We're glad you are with us today. Sandra Beck has the day off, but I am here with you, Robin Boyd, with you for the next hour. We have a wonderful guest today, Bill Lockard. He is the head coach of 227 Financial Coaching. Lots of great advice coming up, especially when the beginning of April comes around. I think we all sort of get that little hot feeling in the back of our neck because we know what's ahead in the middle of the month. But before we meet Bill, I want to share a couple of things that we have on our radar. If you're up in the Washington State area, Washington Military Kids and Family Partnership is planning a Making Connections Summit. Will take place on April 15th of all days. The goal of this summit is to connect community and military service providers, educate service providers on programs available to the military and their families, and to share tips on how to maintain connections with each other. This is so important. So often we hear of this disconnect, and services that might be available are not available, or the other way around. Topics that they're going to present in this is going to include resources provided by military programs, what is available in the community, especially in reference to mental health resources, military culture, and awareness, and so much more. There's a lot of resources that are available for you to call for. And one of the reasons why I am bringing this up, even if you're not in the Washington area, I wanted to let other communities be aware of this kind of event. It's a wonderful forum, and it's so much this is so needed in communities and military providers as far as their communication. Other states may want to take note of the outcome of this kind of summit, and if something similar is not happening in your state or county, maybe this is a good time for you to explore these possibilities. Now, if you are up in Washington and are interested in this, the event is going to take place at the McGavick Conference Center, 4500 Steilacoom Boulevard, and in Lakewood, Washington. If you have questions about this event or want to learn more about their outcomes, the telephone number is 253-512-7985. And I did Google it just to make sure that I had the information, so you certainly could do the same. April 1st is payday for the military, but with the start of April, as I kind of alluded to, we're also reminded, and it's sometimes a painful reminder, that it is tax season. Just a reminder, if this is still on your to-do list, that Military OneSource has tax preparation assistance available to military families. So go to military.com and search for the services not only from Military OneSource, but Jackson Hewitt, IRS Free File, and also Tax Slayer and TurboTax have specific editions just for military. So you'll want to find more information on those programs as well. So once we all go down that tax filing alley, and it's almost like New Year's Eve, isn't it? We start planning and say, oh, I'm going to do better next year, and I'm going to start to save in a little account and tuck a little away, and start clipping coupons or making coffee instead of stopping on the way to work. And then, just like every New Year's resolution, our hopes to stay financially on track are just sometimes washed away by the first emergency. It's maybe a flat tire, or one of the kids broke their glasses, or our cell phone died. Any number of catastrophes along the way just throw our household budget into a financial collapse. So our guest today Bill Lockard, is going to peel us off the ceiling from all of those catastrophes and help us lay out some good groundwork to help us through and get us on the right track. Bill, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm delighted. Thank you for having me.
We definitely are victim to many things that happen in our lives. And you are a retired Army officer, and you are a trained financial coach, and you do assist now families on how to get out of debt and build wealth. But I'm curious, before we got to where you are today, Bill, when you were young and a teenager, were you really frugal, and did your family give you an allowance?
Well, that's a great question. When I was young, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I cannot remember my parents talking with my brother and I about income and about how much we made and about our family budget and things like that. To me, it was just, I knew my dad went to work, my mom stayed at home, my mom ran the books. We never wanted for anything. But when I went to college and was getting ready to graduate and entered the Army, bam, I hit that big brick wall of, okay, what's next? And just like so many other people, one of the first things I did was get a credit card. And not too long after that, I found myself in trouble with racking up credit card debt. And I was never a big spender, haven't ever been a big spender, but the temptations of having that credit card in your pocket at all times is just so great that it's hard to resist.
It's very difficult, I think, and I think we've all been there, whether you're off to college or off to the military. I think you have to sort of experience it, and the only way to experience it is to sort of get in a little bit of trouble, so you have to get yourself out. I think no matter how many times our moms or dads said, you really should put a little money away, you kind of have to get it out of your system maybe. I'd like to think that we could help alleviate that to some degree. What about your own kids? Do you give them allowances, or do you help them sort of?
Well, my wife and I have decided early on, even before we had kids, that we were going to kind of switch things up. So whereas I said that my mom and dad never really spoke of money or financial topics in our house, my wife and I have been very open with our two kids about our finances, about our budget, about how much things cost, so that they're not clueless when they get to the age of and go out into the world. My kids now are 13 and 15, so we've got one who's getting ready to get spun up to go to college, and they both understand basic issues now about basic ideas about what a car loan is and what's interest on a loan and how dangerous debt can be, because the interest that gets applied to your debt month after month just grows out of control. So for my kids, do they get a budget, do they get an allowance? No, not really, but we try to instill an entrepreneur spirit within them. So take, for instance, my son, my 13-year-old, he built his first computer this past Christmas, and already he is helping people in and around our town as a consultant, if you will, helping them put together websites. And my daughter is making, good money for her age as a babysitter, and she knows that once she gets her driver's license, she'll need a car to get a job and to go to school, so she's putting money aside for that. So I think my wife and I kind of want to, as I said, turn the tables around, and I want them to leave the house knowing some of these basic concepts so that they can be one step ahead of where I was when I left the house.
Absolutely. I know one of the other shows that we have on TogiNet is Baby and Toddler Instructions, and I was on Blythe Lipman's show one day, and we were talking a little bit with a guest that she had on, encouraging parents to not be so quick to use even just a debit card when you're shopping with the children, because it gives them a false concept of spending money.
Absolutely.
That we should probably take out the $50 or $100, have the cash in when we go to do the grocery shopping, and give cash as opposed to swiping the debit card, because it helps those kids just with those subliminal suggestions that plastic card isn't magic. That plastic card really does stand for tender.
That's absolutely true. I can tell you, in our family, when we go to the grocery store or we go to a restaurant, we have a specific envelope with us that has cash in it. And my kids have learned to understand that when the cash is done, we're not going out to dinner again until I get paid at the first of the month. So they understand that money just doesn't magically come out of an ATM or doesn't come out from the credit card company. It's there, it gets used for a purpose, and then it's gone. So you have to be wise about it.
I'm hoping a lot more curriculums in schools are embracing basic household skills. I know my daughter was in a class in high school, and they created their own checkbook. They had their own quote-unquote income. They had to balance their checkbook. They had to go through all of and the teacher every day would throw something at you. Johnny needs a haircut, or Mary's going to need braces, or so-and-so got the flu, or the car broke down. All of those little things that our real life throws at you. It was a wonderful class, and it was in their math class, but not everybody got to take that class if they were in some of the advanced mathematic classes. So I'm hoping more schools do more life. I think it was called lifestyles or something like that. Bill, we're on our way to a break, and on the other side of the break, I do want to talk about what you as a coach do and how your coaching is so specific to military families. I know that money is dear to everybody, but military families do have some unique challenges. So on the other side of the break, we're going to be talking with Bill Lockard from 227 Financial Coaching. We are going to be here for the rest of the hour, so get comfy. Stay with us. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Secret Cuisines and Sacred Rituals is a quest, a place, and a feast. Join host Vilasi Venkatachalam every week to explore myths, mystique, old medicine, and brilliant modern solutions through a dazzling kaleidoscope of cuisines, cultures, and cures. This is the place where tribes gather, strangers and familiars, to be memory keepers and makers of our evolving, enduring, evergreen, spoken legacy of wisdom and ingenuity. In Vilasi's words, when we do old things in new ways and new things in old ways, we paint with an inspired palette, weave our own healing traditions, and become our own guru. Vilasi is a troubadour of secret cuisines and sacred rituals. She collects stories of wisdom, ingenuity, and grit. She believes wellness and transformation happen when you stand at the threshold of delight and discovery. She displays her hidden penchant for drama when she leads the safari at the supper club. Her favorite pastime is to extol the marvels of cuisines, cultures, and cures. To her audience in workplaces, seminars, and salons, her mantra is, be your own guru. She is a biochemist, botanist, and alchemist who likes to churn delightful, useful things from a brew of art and science, ancient and evolving, old medicine, and new cures. Join Vilasi every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
It's words you never heard.
Only 6 golfers in history have ever shot a hole-in-one while taking part in the Ryder Cup. Of course, the hole-in-one isn't a phenomenon for professional golfers only. Hackers, whiffers, and foozlers get them, while some PGA Tour pros still await their first. According to Golf Digest, who has been tracking info for more than 60 years, the odds of getting a hole-in-one for a professional is 5,000 to 1 and 12,000 to 1 for the rest of us. Tiger Woods shot his first hole-in-one when he was only 6 years old, and John Elway hit a hole-in-one on his 40th birthday. Now there's a good reason to frolic gozine or celebrate. I figured out why golf instructors insist you keep your head down and look at the ball. It's so that you can't see them laughing.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're here today with Bill Lockard. He is the head coach for 227 Financial Coaching. And Bill, we were talking a little bit about growing up and having concepts of financial awareness, I guess we could actually call it. When you retired from active duty, what was your financial horizon? Were you able, you served for 21 years, so you really probably had a little bit more time to be planning what you were going to be doing when you severed and when you retired. Were you ready to hit the road running, or were you sort of, once you retired, sort of faced with starting from square one?
Well, when I retired, I had a very good idea of what I could do, and I also had a good idea of what I wanted to do. So I wanted to try to at least merge those two ideas together. So after my 21 years in the Army, I was able to have a resume that I was able to get a job relatively soon after I retired. I was working for the federal government in a DOD, Department of Defense office. And I still do that type of work for the government now. But I knew when I retired that was a job I could get and I knew I could succeed at, but the job that I wanted to do, the passion I had, was to help others, and specifically those servicemen and women and their families, to try to find the freedom that my wife and I achieved later on in my military career, when we were able to pay off all of our debts, and to the point where we even paid off our house before I retired from the Army. And I was completely debt-free. And for the first time ever, I just had this complete sense of freedom, a huge weight lifted off of my chest. And I started helping people informally at my church to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then I found that this is the passion that I really wanted to seek out. And really, there was no other group of people who I wanted to help more than the ones who were still in uniform or coming out of uniform. So that's why I'm at the point now where, although I had the job with the civilian type job, now I'm leaning towards more of making this my true passion in life, is to help people, get out of debt, plan budgets, and build their wealth.
It's just so wonderful to know that it can be done. And I'm sure many who are in the military, and we kind of alluded to this during the break, I think especially if your term of services is just the short 3 to 5 years, you're not really thinking about what's ahead. You're there to get your job done. You're doing your job. You are just sticking to business. At what point should somebody who is, say, enlisting or is currently serving, at what point should they really be starting to think about what's ahead after they leave the military?
Well, after they leave the military, the best piece of advice I got from a gentleman who had retired many, many years before I did was that at around 5 years out, if you're making the military a career, you need to really start thinking about your exit plan, as he referred to it, mm-hmm. about 3 to 5 years out before you get out. That gives you enough time to kind of amass the knowledge that you'll need to make that transition as painless as possible. You need to decide things not only what you want to do, but where you're going to do it. Are you going to stay where you're at, or was there one specific part of the country that you were living in at some point during your career that you want to travel back to? Or is there a place where your family's from that you want to go to? For people who are going to be staying in for a shorter time, I don't think there's anything wrong with having an idea going into the military, knowing that you're going to do it for 3 years or 5 years, and then at the end of that time, my goals are this. I'm going to get out after 5 years and use my GI Bill to take me to college or to take me to a trade school and do something that I truly want to do. And in that case, I think it's probably wise for them to think 3 to 5 years ahead, even as they're enlisting in the military, so that they can spend their time in the military getting everything assembled that they'll need for when that time comes for them to hang up the uniform and go forth.
Mm-hmm. With the salary that an average person is going to make, is it really reasonable to be able to say, yes, you're going to be able to put a certain percentage away every month in a savings account?
I do think it is. And one of the keys to being able to determine how much you can is to write a budget. Write a budget each month telling you how much money you're going to make. And for us in the military, we've got a pretty good idea down to the penny how much we're going to get every payday. And then start subtracting the expenses that you know you're going to have, be it food, be it grocery money, be it transportation money, gas for the car, be it clothing money, be it some money for entertainment during the month. But on top of all that, be it maybe tithing your money, giving money to charity, to your local church, etc. And then at the end of that, once you have all the things that are true necessities, not just wants, but true necessities, if you're smart enough to stay out of debt and to not go with the crowd, but to be confident in who you are, you'll have money left over at the end to invest. It may be 1% of your paycheck, it may be 15% of your paycheck. But if you're smart enough to plan out ahead of time, telling your money where to go instead of trying to figure out where it all went, you'll find money to invest. And one of the great things the military started doing about midway through my career is that they opened up the thrift savings plan to all servicemen. So this allows us to invest money, pre-tax money, into the TSP so that our tax burden during the month is also reduced while we're investing money for the future. And I encourage all military families, be they enlisted, NCO, or officers, to take advantage of that as much as possible, and with a goal of incrementally increasing it during their initial years in the military to the point where they've maxed out their contribution to the TSP, so that the money that's going to be that they're putting in, as I said, is pre-taxed. And sure. I can explain to them just how much of an incentive and advantage that is to them. In addition to that, we also all military families can take advantage of a Roth IRA and put even more money away for the future there where it grows tax-free. So it's not, can they? Yes, everyone in the military can find money to invest throughout their careers, be it 5 years or 20 years or longer. It's just a matter of, are you going to take the time and are you going to discipline yourself to find the money? And as I said, don't follow the crowd, but be confident in who you are and know where your priorities are so that you can have a future outside the military when that retirement day comes.
Where do they find out? Where would one find more information if they did want to set up one of those plans?
Well, for the TSP, of course, they would go through their human resources or their personnel office on base. For a Roth IRA, it's a simple thing of going online and finding a reputable investment firm that can set up a Roth IRA rather easily. The internet has made things so easy that even I can do it. But the one thing I want to stress is, as a financial coach, I'm not going to try to sell anybody any stocks or mutual funds. I'm a coach in the sense that I'm going to try to educate you and to give you suggestions and take an objective look at where you're at now without any, I'm not going to try to judge you on what's happened in the past, but rather kind of educate you towards the future of what you can do to get out of debt and to build wealth. So, going back to your original question, absolutely, I think anyone in the military can find money in their budget to invest, and it's imperative that they do.
It's imperative. While we're chatting about resources that you offer, I want to direct people to your website, which is financial227support.com. And one of the blogs that you wrote that I read on your website was talking need versus want. And I think that's what you're saying is there are times that we really have to weigh those two words very carefully.
Oh, absolutely. And believe me, no one was guilty more of getting the two things mixed up than I was. I mean, especially as a stupid, dumb young lieutenant in the Army, when I was getting my first steady paycheck, I bought so many things that on credit cards that I'm embarrassed to even bring them up now to my daughter and my son. So trust me, I made every mistake that anyone in the military right now is making. I've made them, and I've probably made more than a couple that you haven't even thought of yet. So, what
you're the pro.
I'm the pro, and maybe that's my best qualification to be a coach, because I've already made the mistakes, and I'm here to give you some insight before you make some other ones.
Oh, gosh. Bill, we're so glad that you're here and helping us sort of sort this out. We're here today with Bill Lockard, and I do hope you stay with us. We've got lots more after the break right here on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer, Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's words you never heard.
A few years ago, some fishermen off the coast of Italy discovered some pottery along with fish in their nets. Divers were called out and discovered an ancient Roman ship whose galley, or caboose, a nautical term for kitchen, was extremely intact. Some of the food uncovered on board was pickled fish, wine, oil, and grain used to make the ship's biscuits, otherwise known as dandy funks. It is thought the 2,000-year-old boat was probably on its way to Spain when it sunk and was covered by layers of mud, baggy wrinkles and all. Baggy wrinkles are another name for the ship's ropes. The mud protected the ship from wear, explaining why the leftover food on board was still in such good condition. We land lubbers may not be familiar with leftovers on the sea, but we are familiar with leftovers in our kitchen.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Welcome back, everyone. This is Robin Boyd with you today. Sandra has the day off. And if you've missed any of this show or any of our 200-plus shows that we've got wrapped up and waiting for you, you can visit us at militarymomtalkradio.com. You can find them all on iTunes. That's where we are. And anytime you feel like listening to a great show, just tune us in, and we are there ready and waiting for you. Today's great show is with Bill Lockard. He is the head coach for 227 Financial Coaching. And his website, I did say before, but I want to make sure that you all had a chance to jot it down. It's financial227support.com. And the blogs that I'm reading on there, Bill, are really very poignant. That's not quite the right word I want, but they're very succinct. They bring out an issue. You talk about the issue. It makes you think about the issue as to where you can make the choice. And I think that's what a good coach does. And you are indeed that. You are helping us make the best choice in our best interest. Where did you think you always had that in you? When did you finally decide that was where you knew you could help other people, especially military families?
Well, I think my certainly my leadership skills and my managerial skills were honed and taught to me via the military. I mean, you spend 20 plus years in the Army, and the Army expects you to be a leader and a mentor, and in that sense, a coach for the younger people coming into the military, be they young officers or young NCOs or young enlisted people. So I think I was able to learn quite a bit from my experiences in the Army, and then I just when my wife and I decided that we were going to become debt free and we were going to pay everything off, I just found that I couldn't learn enough about everything I wish I had learned when I was in school. So quite a bit of just going to the library, finding books that I think will help me and thus help my clients, and just trying to stay current and trying to educate myself any way I can. One of the great things, and thank you very much for mentioning my website, but one of the great things I learned is just by having people interact with me by email or over the phone, because every situation's unique. Everyone has a different story, but there's so many common threads that weave their way through everyone's life and everyone's story that we can all learn so much from one another. And that's one of the things I truly enjoy doing, is to capture these lessons from people and try to apply them to others as I coach them.
I was sort of anticipating that answer from you, but I'm kind of glad that came out. So many times I think in the military you're doing a job and you're not realizing the skills that you are learning are going to transcend into civilian life. And it may be in a way that you don't expect. But who would have thought that when you were in serving in Kuwait or Egypt that you were going to be turning around and helping people with their financial futures?
That's very true. I could tell you that as I was getting closer and closer to the end of my career, I knew that even if I wanted to walk away from the idea of trying to help people with their finances, it just kept coming back to me. So I think it's more of a career that's found me instead of me finding the career.
Yeah. Do you think the military does a good job preparing our servicemen and women to stay?
No, I hate saying this, but no, I don't think they do. Unfortunately, you brought up the class that your daughter takes, and I wish that class was not only available to all kids in school, but mandatory. And unfortunately, our school systems don't teach young people through high school about these things, and military doesn't either. Is it the role of the military to teach young enlistees how to manage their money? Maybe not. But I get a little upset, a little disappointed in my military when I see that it makes credit and thus debt easily accessible to all servicemen. When I was a captain in the Army brought out this new thing called the Star Card, which was basically a credit card that you could use at the PX or the Navy Exchange or any AV store. And I had to again, resist that temptation of using it. And believe me, I used it for some dumb things. But then I would see young privates and E3s who were buying things like candy bars and 6-packs of sodas and chips and things on this Star Card, not realizing that if they didn't pay it off, they were going to be collecting interest on that debt that was just going to follow them each month. So I think that, again, it's debatable. Does the military have a responsibility to teach its members about being financially responsible? I don't think there's any debate at all. It's in their best interest for servicemen and women and their families to be financially responsible. I think it makes for a more effective and efficient military if we have families who have their finances in order, are out of debt, and are saving money, because those are critical things that they don't have to worry about when the service member has to deploy. And it's certainly things that families don't have to worry about when every 24 to 36 months they have to up and move, in PCS. So it's in the military's best interest, but unfortunately, the people I speak with, the people I work with, all too often are, they went into the military and the first time they ever got a steady paycheck was from Uncle Sam, and instead of using it wisely, they just like so many other people in our country, they allowed themselves to get deep and deep in debt.
I know other people that have listened to the show know that I am a lifelong Girl Scout, and I actually do work for our local council now. We are just wrapping up our Girl Scout cookie program, and we always want to call it a program because indeed it is a program. It's not just a sale, because the girls are learning entrepreneurial skills, and it's just one vehicle that I feel very strongly about in teaching our children how to manage money at a young age. In our program, we encourage them to decide what their goal is and then to build toward that goal by, are they going to sell cookies or are they going to sell fall product? How many do they need? If they're going to do a booth sale, do they have to purchase a permit? Are they going to use transaction fees on a swipe card so that they can accept credit cards? There are fees involved in that, and all of that is part of learning how to run a successful business. And I think too many times people forget the program behind the fun of the cookies, because certainly we have fun while we're doing it, but those learning skills are so important for children to embrace at a young age, so they do have that conceptually as adults. They're not just thinking money grows on trees, or it's not just going to be waived and we don't have to pay that finance fee, or it's going to be our responsibility to get ourselves ahead financially. And that's where your coaching is just so important for everyone.
It is. And, I with a daughter who was in Girl Scouts and a son who was in Cub Scouts, I've seen plenty of Girl Scout cookie booths and Boy Scout popcorns being sold outside of Walmart and places. But, it's certainly the sooner we can expose people to that type of entrepreneurship spirit and being able to do a profit loss statement, or just a simple budget, a household budget, or even if you're a single person, a monthly budget that where you're going to decide what needs to be paid first and where the money's going to go. Because I could tell you, just like so many other people, when my wife and I were first married and I was a young captain, we didn't use a budget. And I can remember months when my LES was more or less spent by the 10th of the month, and the rest of the month was bankrolled on a Visa card. And, we had 2 car payments, rent, school loans. I had a personal loan that I had taken out, and then utilities, groceries, going downtown to see a movie once or twice just for the heck of it, and by the time the 10th of the month rolled around, my checking account, my paycheck was spent. And then it was just this vicious cycle. We started all over again. We thought we were ahead of the game because we were paying off our credit card bill each month. But we didn't realize that we were spending money on stuff that we didn't need. We didn't realize that, we were playing the game, that we had become slaves of the credit card. And that's why I named our coaching firm 227 Financial Coaching, because in Proverbs 22:7, it says that the borrower is the slave to the lender. And regardless if that lender is, the credit card company or the car loan company or your local bank, if you're borrowing money and you're not even paying attention to how much or what type of interest rate you're paying, you're a slave to that loan. You're a slave to that credit card because it's stealing the potential that you have for you and your family to really live free. It's stealing any potential you have to doing the things that you want to do with the money that you earn. And especially for military families, I can't think of a more noble cause, a more noble profession to pursue than our military. So please, let's get out of that rat race. Let's get out of that vicious cycle that my wife and I experience and start making a plan each month for where our money's going to be. And it took a while for my wife.
And that's going to definitely inspire us. We've got to go to break, Bill. But on the other side of the break, let's talk a little about those unforeseen things that always hit us like a 2x4. We'll be back with Bill Lockard. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Welcome to Geraldine Tegelov Live, the show that shares with you the secrets of redefining, reinventing, and rebuilding your life. Having pulled herself from the rubble of financial ruin and having gone on to create a highly successful career, Geraldine has become an expert in the art of transformation. She believes that it doesn't matter where you are right now, how overwhelmed you feel, or how impossible the task of turning your life around may seem. You can do it. Stay tuned as metaphysician, international best-selling author, and intuitive Geraldine Tegelov gives you the inner understanding and the outer practical how-to to create your amazing life. Gain a fresh perspective on how to redefine, reinvent, and rebuild your life. Join Geraldine Tegelov live every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network.
Everyone knows you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. But who wants to catch a fly? Flies are quick and repulsive. Flies have 2 wings, while all other insects have 4. And they beat their wings 200 times per second. That's faster than a hummingbird. Flies jump up and backwards when taking off with an average speed of 5 miles per hour. What's the word for that annoying buzzing sound flies make? Fritten and see. Pestologists tell us that flies' favorite color is red. Flies have kinesophobia. That's the fear of movement. So simply hang a plastic bag filled with water to keep the flies away. My only question would be, would a fly without wings be called a what?
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are in the final part of our hour. We're chatting today with Bill Lockard. He is the head coach for 227 Financial Coaching. Bill, thank you so much again for being here. We're learning so much, and most importantly, we're building confidence that it's not just people who are CPAs that can balance their budgets and get to the end of the month with a penny still in the pocket. You're giving us the confidence that any one of us can be financially solvent if we really put our minds to it.
Absolutely. And for those people who need help, that's where someone like myself can come in and help you. You know, as I said, I can give you an objective look at where you're at. I'm not going to pass judgment. You know, so many people I work with, they talk about how they're just hopeless and they're embarrassed to show me just where they're at in the world. And I tell them, it's just, let's not worry about what happened in the past. Let's focus on the future and get yourself into a better place.
Bill, so many times, and like you say, sometimes people are embarrassed to talk about it. Money is such a sensitive issue, and I think we all get very private about our money. But there are times, and this could be civilian or military, and I think it's even harder in the military because we have a job to do that is very, very strict and specific. When you're enlisted and you're serving your country, you don't have the option to just say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go try that job down in Utah. We have to stay with the job that we're at, and we have to see it through. But what about those times when some things happen that are unforeseen? Some of those catastrophes, it might be the car back home that your wife was driving broke, or they had an accident or whatever, or maybe even it's a divorce and there's an awful lot of legal fees and settlements, and here you are deployed, but you still have to take care of those financial needs. How do we do it?
Well, you know, thank God I haven't had to deal personally with the divorce, but I've certainly dealt with a car breaking down while I'm deployed. My wife can tell you about how the demons moved into our minivan when I was in Baghdad, and we could not get the thing fixed at all, and got to the point where we just had to go and replace it. And I was deployed, and she had 2 young kids running around, and she had a house to run herself. And believe me, you know, I had the easier of the 2 jobs. She was the one trying to get it all done. But how do we get through it? We get through it by realizing, first off, that things like that are going to happen. You know, there's no sticking our heads in the ground and thinking, okay, we won't have a problem next month or next year. It's going to happen. And we need to prepare for that by putting money aside, not for investments, but for an emergency. And we start by just putting $1,000 aside so that we've got a buffer zone between us and the emergency. And then we start collecting or amassing as much money as we can until we have about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses put aside just in a local savings account or in a money market account. And that way when lightning does strike or strikes more than once at the same time, we've got some money that we can quickly get to and say, okay, the brakes went out in the car at the same time that the AC at the house broke down. Let's go ahead. We knew this was coming. Well, we knew that something like this was going to eventually happen, so let's take that money out of savings, that emergency fund, and let's not panic, and let's get it taken care of. So, you know, that buffer zone of of money. That emergency fund buffer zone is what's going to allow us to see that the light is at the end of the tunnel, and we don't have to panic, and we don't have to run off post to the local payday loan shark people or the pawn shop to borrow money, and we don't have to tell the kids, no, Christmas is canceled this year because the car broke down, something absurd like that. So it's one of the things that I when I work with people, especially young people, we've got to be able to live life. I don't want people to just sit at home staring at a blank wall and watch the paint dry. I want you to get out there and enjoy life. But you also have to be responsible adults now and be prepared for things that are going to happen. And because they are, and at the worst possible time. So get that emergency fund saved up to the point where things, when Murphy comes into your life, you can quickly get to the bank, cut a check, or get the cash and say, okay, get it fixed, and let's be done with it. Let's not dwell on it. Let's not have it put any more undue stress in our relationship. Let's just get it done and then move on to the next thing. Get back to our lives.
And actually, that's basic business protocol. You want your capital reserve, and a 6-month capital reserve is a good target to sort of set your sights at. So, and I think so many times people think, oh, I've got to have thousands and thousands, when all of a sudden you say, you know what, if I can put $10 away this week and maybe 10 or 15 next week, and all of a sudden the 10 or 15 turns into 20 or 25, I think we get too wrapped up in the big zeros.
I absolutely agree.
Hearing that, yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. I can remember people saying, well, if you don't have $500,000, what's the point in investing? You won't make any money anyways, and that's just foolish. Young people today can start putting money into the TSP accounts, or also the Roth IRAs, or if you're a civilian in the civilian world, into a Roth IRA, and you'll be surprised by how quickly it starts to the compounding interest starts working in your favor instead of working against you if you buy things on credit cards. So any dollar, and even now, I've been doing this now for close to 10 years, I still find money. My wife and I still look in our budget and find $10, $20, $30 here, and it's like, why not put it into our savings? Because we've got plans for retirement. I may have retired from the Army in 2010, but I still got 2 young kids. And I still got a lot of years ahead of me, and when we're empty nesters, we intend to do a lot of things, a lot of traveling, the Lord's willing, a lot of looking at grandkids and things like that. So we want the money there to use for when that time comes.
And I think so often and I have to say, my husband ended up retiring early from his career due to downsizing, and we probably weren't as prepared as we thought we would be, because we thought we still had years to come. So those who are able to sort of do this reserve now and are able to get a little ahead while they're younger, that's fantastic. Is it too late for someone who's in their 50s or 60s to start tucking it away?
Not at all. It's never too late.
Oh, good. Thank you.
never too late to make a good decision. My wife and I didn't really get into this idea until I was a major, almost a lieutenant colonel. So not until the later stages of my military career, and it's never too late. It's one of those things where if I could talk to the young second lieutenants or the young privates and E3s and kind of sit down with them and show them what can happen if they're able to find the money to invest wisely and plan a budget and stay out of debt, they'd be looking at, they'd be millionaires before they're before they're 50 years old. That's the potential that they have now. So it's never too late, and it's also never too early to start.
Never too early. Bill, we're just about ready to wrap up here. Can people call you? Can people contact you by your website?
Absolutely. If you go to www.financial227support, you'll see that you can contact me through there, or you can just email me at info@financial227support.com, info@financial227support.com. I'd love to hear from you. I was just the other day, I was standing in line at the movie theater and overheard a conversation behind me, and turned out that it was a young Army officer who was on leave from Fort Benning, and just sharing experiences with him about what it's like to start a military career. So love to hear from you. I'd love to have a nice 30-minute chat over the phone with you to see what's troubling you or where you're at right now and how I can help. And if you go to my website, you'll see the services I offer. I'll tell you up front that I offer a discounted rate for all military people, just because that's, as I said, that's where my passion is, and I want to get the help out there. So by all means, I keep a pretty active blog, and I also want to, before we run out of time, I want to make sure I say, thank you to you, Robin. This has been a fantastic conversation, and your website is fantastic. It's such a great asset for all military families, the way you gather all this information in one place for them. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Both Sandra and I appreciate that so much. We want to say thank you. 21 years is quite a contribution to our country, Bill. So for that, we thank you. And we thanks for all of the service that you're now providing, because your time in the military kind of hasn't ended, because you still are giving everyone this wonderful advice. Bill Lockard, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. And Carrie, keep doing what you're doing, because it really is important work.
We appreciate it so much. Do find us on iTunes if you want to listen to this again and get some more of that information that you might have missed during the show. We're at iTunes. We're at MilitaryMomTalkRadio.com. We are on Facebook. Find us there. Find us on Twitter. We're all over. Most importantly, we want to make sure we're in your listening device, in your iPhone, in your iPad, iPod, whatever you listen to. We want to make sure we're with you here on Military Mom Talk Radio. This is Robin Boyd. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks for spending time with us today on Military Mom Talk Radio. We've got more than 200 episodes available to you anytime on iTunes or at our website, MilitaryMomTalkRadio.com. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. We look forward to another great conversation